Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast, where you learn how to turn other people's debt into income that's perfect for your savings or IRA. Now, there are endless equations when it comes to real estate investing. There's even more in the note investing space. And as savvy investors, we rely on the numbers. We do the math, and the math will tell us what to do. The math removes all emotion that money seems to have attached to it. But the equations can get carried away sometimes. For example, I know of an investor who is killing it right now, but he also has this ridiculous spreadsheet that took him months to construct. And he's jokingly admitted that it might be overkill for the note investing space, but you know what? He has it and it works for him. No matter how amazing you are at numbers and equations, there is still one problem that no formula seems to be able to solve. And that is what makes a good note or a good investment, which is why our guest today talks about how she defines what a good note is and how she teaches her students to look for good notes. By the way, if you're unsure of which asset class to invest in or which types of notes you want to pursue, my co-host of the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast and I have created an investor identity canvas that's perfect for people like you who are trying to figure out where they should put their focus. So if you want your free copy, head over to canvas.tgwipodcast.com. All right, now before we dive into today's nugget, let's learn about our guest. Jasmine Willois is the founder and president of the Note Assistance Program, which offers a proven proprietary system for educating entrepreneurs, accredited investors, and family offices on how to buy non-performing mortgages from big banks, hedge funds, and credit unions. Ms. Willois' approach is informed by her more than 2 decades in the fields of economics, marketing, real estate, and work as a Wall Street investment banker. So let's dive in. And the first question I want to ask you is, how do you, your team, or when you educate people, how do you define what a good note looks like?
Yeah, before we get into what a good note looks like in general, part of what we do in our program is we spend the first hour, I would say we spend 2 hours with you in the beginning during our first official phone call. And that's where we get to know each other, right? And so it's not really where I go and tell you what a good note is. I have to ask you what you're looking for, right? And then from there, we go and define what a good note is. Because I have found that a good note, it means different things to many different people. And that, sir, is one of the most frustrating things in this business, right? A lot of you and us will go to one particular program and one particular training, and they have a definition of what a good note is. And so with my experience, I've been through so many of those, I've raised with some of the greatest, that it hit me one day that a good note can take many different shapes and forms. It can have many different types of collateral. So I really want to dig into what you're looking for before I can enter that directly. But in general, for me, myself, I look at numbers. It's really about return. And after that, everything kind of falls in place.
There you go. And I agree with you 100%, because what's a good note to me, it's the same thing as, hey, is this a good investment? Well, I mean, it could be to you. How do you define what good is? It's almost like speaking to a doctor, right? You don't want to misdiagnose them by assuming what they need or want.
Well, yeah, and especially if you're out there looking to raise money and use an OPM, that's going to make it very frustrating for you. So we've simplified our OPM process to 6 steps. So it's really, it makes it much simpler when you define what they're looking for, and then you can deliver what they're looking for. And even with yourself, if you need to know what you want before you come to a note game, it's not just enough to say, hey, I want to make a lot of money. Well, what if that's a given? Okay, what if you now enter the space where money's, not making the money is not the issue, finding the inventory is not the issue, but now you have to define what a good note looks like to you, right? And what it is that you want to deal with to get that type of return. So yeah, great question.
That's how an investor with decades of experience define what a good note is. You can be like me and overcomplicate the crap out of it. But don't. Try and quantify what a good investment looks like to you and only go for those assets. To learn more from Jasmine Willois, head over to notenuggets.com/good-notes and sign up for access to her full interview.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, Book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another Note Nugget to add to your tool belt.